You're the only person that hasn't touched Nick's chest today.
So, you know SF Game Night? It's like a thing that you just stab yourself in the mouth with a straw on camera. And I'm not gonna, this is the take we're using. I hope you know that. We're sticking with it.
Anyways, SF Game Night.
SF Game Night. So it's this thing here in San Francisco where a bunch of people show up at this bar,
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
they project Mario Kart 64 on a big screen, and they've got like Pokemon Stadium tournaments and Towerfall and just every
It's
local.
surprisingly cool.
Yeah, and like exactly. That was my reaction too. Is I was like, I didn't expect this to be tight, but it is. But I was there last night, and there was a setup of 4 Xbox 360s playing the original Halo 2, which is backwards compatible on the 360,
Yeah.
set up on System Link.
Yeah.
With
Is
like.
that why you were tweeting about how good you are at Halo 2?
I got pretty drunk and played a lot of Halo 2, like an actual classic Halo 2 for the first time in 10 years. That game's still just fun as hell. Like, dude, I don't know how nostalgic you are for Halo 2, but
I am. Well, so I went, I guess it was last week I went with you on
Yeah.
Thursday. And there's a group of people, 4 people playing it. It's like, 2v2.
right.
And I was just watching them. There's these 2 kids who were really good, and these other 2 guys that were like really loud and totally terrible. And it's very
Oh,
entertaining.
I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that was like, in a way, that's half of like my nostalgia for Halo is like kind of the insanity and everyone freaking out and just having a good time.
Yeah.
But it was so cool watching that game again. Like, I've played so many games since Halo 2, but like watching it again, I'm just like, I cannot wait for the Master Chief Collection.
Right.
I cannot wait to play that again.
Well,
with better looking graphics.
The weird thing though is that between Master Chief Collection and playing like literal classic Halo 2 on like running on a backwards compatible Xbox, I think I'm more excited for the HD version of Halo 2 than I am for Anniversary, because like I don't think
Yeah.
the changes in Anniversary are necessarily great. I don't think it looks that much better. I think the guns sound weird just because I'm used to it. But what most excited me about playing Halo 2 last night was the fact that like it's like riding a bike. Like I just got right back into it.
Yeah.
I knew how all the guns felt. It was just like knowing the maps and the radar and everything.
Yeah, so that was what was so funny. Like, me watching people play, I was like, oh, dude, I totally, like, I knew the map so well that I knew what the guy was doing.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Do you? So, are there any games that you? First of all, how dare you? Second of all, do you have any games that you've like gone back and played with like a decade's distance to see how you feel
Oh
about
God, a
them now?
decade?
It's weird that it's been a decade, by the way, since
That's
like
insane.
2004. I don't know
That
how
blows
that's
my mind.
possible.
I actually did go back recently and play the original Rayman game.
Oh, really?
Because that was like the first PC platformer that I ever played.
Yeah.
That shit still holds up.
That's
it's still
interesting to
really good. And you can really tell, like with the recent games like Rayman Legends, how they just build upon the mechanics that were already in the first game. Like nothing about that series has fundamentally changed.
Interesting.
It's just gotten better somehow every time. It's crazy. God,
That's-
I love Rayman.
How did it look? Because what's so great about the new ones is the hand-done like 2D animation.
Yeah, I mean, it was on a PC, so it's definitely looks better than like an Xbox original game.
Right.
It doesn't look bad. I mean, it's the resolution is extremely small.
Right,
So, but the actual art assets and stuff are really good for the time, I think. I was like probably 12 or 13.
Jeez.
Yeah. Wow.
It's always weird seeing what games hold up and which ones don't. For me, you can never predict it exactly. Like
No, you can't.
they're like Sonic Spinball is a weirdly specific game that I have a shitload of nostalgia for. But when you go back and play that game now, just like the way, even when you're running around as Sonic, when you're not in ball form, just looks and feels and plays like poop from a butt. Same with
Yeah.
Sonic 3D Blast. I thought that game was tight. I thought Sonic 3D Blast was the shit when
Me
it came
too.
out.
I
That game's
remember.
not super good at
No,
all.
it's not.
Trying to play Sonic also on a modern console is so weird.
Oh, the
like
controller?
I can only enjoy Sonic on the original Sega Genesis controller because that's how I played it for so many years. And it's almost, I feel it's more difficult to play on like a 360
Yeah.
controller. I remember trying to play, what was the Sonic game that came out like 3 or 4 years ago?
Was it Sonic 4? Or
I think it was before that.
Oh, God.
There was,
me on the spot. I
it
gotta
was
name all the
before
Sonic.
Generations.
was it Unleashed?
No, maybe it was.
Oh, so there's Unleashed, Generations, the Sonic and the Black Knight on the Wii, Sonic Colors on the Wii.
No, it came out right around the time of Sonic Colors, though, because I remember it was like one of the first games that I covered as a video game journalist. And it was like, I remember we went to this theater in Japantown and they had the game set up in like a movie theater. And I played it and I was like, oh man, Sonic, like I haven't played this in forever. I'm so excited. And I was just like failing so hard at it. And I realized it was the controller. Like you get so used, and that's like such a precise platforming game.
Yeah.
That like the way you play it really, really matters. And the controller on 360 just was not working
You're right.
for me.
Because if you think about the 360 controller, it's got two pieces of directional input. It's got the stick, and playing Sonic with an analog stick, like a 2D Sonic game with an analog stick, makes zero sense. And then it's
Yeah.
got the world's worst D-pad in the history of D-pads.
Exactly.
So it was like, that makes sense. It's the worst
Exactly.
of
The
both
D-pad
worlds.
on the Sega Genesis was terrific.
Hell yeah.
Why can't they just do that again?
But then I'm getting to this point in my life now where I'm questioning everything I thought I knew from that era in our lives. Like, was it actually a good D-pad if we went back today and touched it?
You know what? I wouldn't mind if they released a retro controller,
Mm-hmm.
because like you see some of that. Like the Wii U Pro controller is pretty
Mm-hmm.
like limited. But like I don't. What if I want to play something like retro games on a controller that does not have an analog stick? It's so hard to even do that now unless you play them on the original console.
That's true. For me, my go-to is still the DualShock 4. I'm using that for basically everything at this point on the PC, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
But then, like, think about like the NES controller and how it was literally a rectangle.
That
They
was a
made
nightmare.
Not
they made
ergonomic at all.
Zero accommodations for the human hand. They do like fuck.
Yeah.
We don't care about comfort. It's
Yeah, we
four
want this to
hard
hurt
edges
after an hour.
The softest parts of your hands. Just
Exactly.
Right angles.
That's what made the Genesis controller so great. It was ergonomic but simple. And actually, for the time, it was quite advanced.
And-
because you had the 3 buttons on the right.
Dude, there was one version, one of my controllers, I don't know why, had 6. It had A, B, C, and then like X, Y, and Z right above it.
Interesting.
You know, a game I really want to play again, and I did like I guess like 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed it was Twisted Metal for like the
Whoa.
PS2, and I just like I don't remember which one it was. They made a few, but that game looked like complete doo doo.
Even at the time?
Even
At
the
the time,
recent
I
one looked
remembered
like
it
doo-doo.
looking good, and then
Yeah.
when I played it like 2 years ago, it looked so bad. But I actually had a great time playing it. Like it's so
Huh.
arcadey. I feel like any arcadey game can hold up really well. There's something
Absolutely.
about like just like pure mechanics, like good mechanics, like hold up and they last.
I think
and
Twitch
they can
mechanics,
always be fun.
Yeah.
Anything twitchy or actiony will pretty much be okay. I just feel like in general though, that era, the PS1 and N64 era, is like this awful, almost like uncanny valley isn't the right word, but it's just like a severe downtick in human history of like SNES games, Genesis games still look great for the most
Yeah.
part. 2D, beautiful, hand-drawn art, sprites. N64 games and PS1 games,
No.
fucking
'Cause
nightmares.
that's when they were like, oh my god, 3D, we can do this. Let's do it
Yeah,
everywhere.
we can
And we-
technically do this.
Yeah.
And we did it while sacrificing like everything else.
Everything.
Yeah.
It was like real
Everyone,
bad.
like, go
But
back
I
and play
remember
GoldenEye.
thinking it was good.
Yeah.
Dude, GoldenEye. I remember thinking GoldenEye looked fucking great. I remember, like I can remember what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
And that clashes to what it actually looks like in reality. And I
course.
feel like there's something wrong. Like I'm
Your
like,
frame of reference is what's wrong.
I guess so.
It's rose-tinted glasses, right? So
Yeah.
like literally this past weekend, I downloaded the Ocarina of Time 3D on the 3DS because it was one of those games that I didn't have a 3DS at the time when it came out, so I downloaded it. And that game does a remarkable job of looking the way I remember Ocarina of Time looking.
Yeah, because
Ev-
you've literally compressed the resolution down. So like,
Yeah, but they've also redone all the artwork so that like if it's funny when you look on the internet and look at like what Zelda's face actually looked like in Ocarina of Time, it's not human. Like she has hair, but really she's just a spiky polygon, and part of that polygon is yellow. And it's cool because on the one hand, like running around that first village, it looks the way I remember it looking. And there's no way in hell it actually looked that good in real life if you look at it side by side. But the other weird thing is there are tiny things that look off. Like, remember that dude in Ocarina of Time who's got his hands on his hips and he's like, he won't let you in to
Yeah.
go visit the Deku Tree? That dude has a face now, like an actual face with expressions and
Yeah.
a face. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's just not right. That's
Yeah.
not, he's not supposed to have like a discernible emotion at all.
right.
Nintendo, I feel, is the company that's the best at like
agree.
doing remakes of old
Yeah.
games and making them look and feel like the original games.
I think what's interesting is they're not above changing the gameplay too. Like they fixed the water temple by all accounts in that
Yeah.
3DS OOT.
I was going to mention Wind Waker because they did change the art style of that a lot, but it's not necessarily worse than it was before. It's just different.
Yeah, I think Nintendo is like in general they're like their games like hold up the best, but also whenever they do remake a game, the arts they know what to keep in terms of like the aesthetics that are most crucial to like the core experience.
Yeah.
You know, like Wind Waker looks beautiful, and they did change a lot. They like added a little more like I feel like wispy, like swirly things that
Yeah.
I mean feel
More
appropriate.
cartoonish.
Yeah.
But it works, and like they're adding like the it's 16:9 instead of 4:3, so you see way more of the world. But
And a selfie camera. I know we've
And a
talked about
selfie-
that before, but that's the best thing ever.
I know it's great.
I want them to retroactively add that to all of their old games.
Mario 64 kind of almost has it.
They needed more of it.
Yeah, I want more Mario selfies.
That game,
Sure.
I want that on the Wii U.
True. Like, that's actually weird that the one time they remade Mario 64, it was on the original DS.
Right.
Like, that game deserves an actual, even
Needs
just a
a-
port of
That's
the DS
probably
version.
my favorite Mario game of all time.
It is
actually,
most
come to think about
people's
it.
Yo,
actually.
you
A
want to
lot
talk
of people
about games
say
that hold
Super
up?
Mario Galaxy is the best.
Well, I
Which
think
is
it's the
good.
best. I think it's the best. You know, like relatively recent one we have.
I have
But-
special memories tied to Mario
I do too.
64.
And
It's
it-
so good.
Like, you want to talk about N64 games that still hold up. That game still feels and runs amazing,
yeah.
which is crazy when
does.
you consider what a first it was in so many ways for so many genres and for Nintendo. The fact that that game is still playable is a miracle, much less that it's
Oh, yeah.
like better than anything else on the N64 today.
Of
Yeah.
course, that shit
To
blew
this
my
date.
mind back then. I was like, what 3D Mario game?
Yeah.
What world is this?
Yeah.
Where am I?
It was so beautiful too.
Like-
I just remember like exploring it and being like literally just blown away at every turn.
Yeah.
Like, say what you will about the way Nintendo handles himself in the modern world, but like the fact that they managed to take their two biggest franchises and bring them into 3D and get it right on the first fucking try,
Right.
that's insane.
Dude,
Back
That's
then,
insane.
Nintendo was like hitting aces every day. Now
It's true.
It's a different story.
I guess-
Well, and I mean they've always been this mad genius, right? I mean,
I hope they never change.
me
hope they
too.
never change.
Me too. Like in a way, I love them for all the mistakes they make. You know, I would be if they stopped making mistakes. I would be afraid that they would stop being
Taking
able to have
risks.
like taking the risk and having like those great moments where they do make, you know, like a 3D Mario. Like imagine they so easily could have said. Mario is never meant to be 3D.
Right.
That's so easy, and I feel like that's what most companies would have done.
They would have shot themselves in the ass if they had done that, though, because everybody wanted the Nintendo 64 because it was 3D, and they were like,
Right.
man, I want to really want to get into this. This is so cool.
Yeah.
If
That's
Nintendo
just so
had
weird,
just been
though.
like, no, we're gonna keep Mario 2D, people would have been like, fuck you, Nintendo.
Yeah.
I would have been like,
They
fuck
would
you,
have.
Nintendo.
It would have been weird, but they could have done the 3D thing in a way that was maybe a little more, like risk averse. Instead, they made a game where there's a whole separate camera that you control separately, which is
Oh, yeah.
completely new. On these buttons on the side,
Yeah.
and you could zoom in and zoom out the camera, and the camera actually was pretty well behaved considering. Like,
Yeah.
it's weird. I'm
amazing.
with you in terms of like Nintendo still doesn't totally get how the internet works.
Nope.
In 2014.
Maybe never will.
Which is crazy, but then I look back and like my two favorite games of last year, Fire Emblem Awakening, Super Mario 3D World. So they have this weird bottled magic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to believe that it's because they plug their ears when the modern world like advances around
Right.
them, but there's got to be something that they're doing that's
Yeah.
making them make these magical games like time
It's
after
called
time.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm saying though, Mario Galaxy 2, Super Mario 3D World.
I want to believe that in some small way, Reggie is behind all of this.
Yeah?
The day he dies, the day I quit video games forever.
Jeez.
Wow.
You know, he
I
used to
mean
be he was like a lead marketing guy at Pizza Hut before he
Really?
was at Nintendo. Yeah.
Well,
he was,
Pizza Hut sucks now, so.
There you
there you go. And
Point
he was
proven.
Panda Express and VH1. I was reading the Wikipedia article for Reggie last night at SF Game Night
Okay.
out loud.
That's not weird.
I was gonna
Just what I was
question
doing.
why you knew so much
it
knowledge.
was less than 24 hours ago. I was on Reggie Fils-Ami's Wikipedia article.
I mean, I end up there every now and then.
It's my homepage, you know?
Late at night.